Hello, 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 friends. Welcome. You have found the podcast where we have the nerve to talk about things that may strike a nerve. And if we get on your nerve, hello. Chime in, chime in, chime in, and welcome.
Hey, hello.
Hi. Because we were talking in the green room and we were having these conversations about what does it look like to break habitual thoughts? What does it take to do a mindset shift? And we just decided to just come on in here. We're streaming into 3 different places, so please feel comfortable to drop anything in the comments. Say hello, tell us where you're from. I will do a short little intro. My name is Yuelka Magdalena, and I have been a co-facilitator in this podcast with Little Youth. And we have brought in one of our friends, Joey, to join us in the conversation. So, ladies, take it away.
Like she said, I'm Little You, and I especially wanted to talk about this topic because I've had some firsthand experience with some of the things that can help you break habitual habits. But I'd like to hear Joey's intro first. So,
Hello, I'm Joey Costa, and I teach and transfer in applied energetic philosophy called Presence Manifest. And I've been doing a little bit of talking with these two and some work. And I'm happy to engage in this conversation, this free flow conversation, very present, very on call.
yes.
It's just coming out of the left. A lot of people are under the impression that because certain people are successful in certain areas that they don't deal with having to break habitual thoughts. And I think that's something that occurs in all of us, something that, we have to counterattack, so to speak, with positive affirmations, or something, what's going to get me out of this thought that's not beneficial for me.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I have to leave myself reminders in the morning sometimes, because if it happens to be one of those tough mornings, I need to remind myself, these are the tasks that I'm going to do. And just to breathe and change the mindset if I'm not having a good start to the day, because all days don't have a great start.
Correct.
Yeah. I like that you touched on the habits of seemingly like successful people, like how society defines success. If that's wealth or whatever it looks like, doesn't mean that there's not things going on internally. Like having a discussion with Joey, things can feel kind of numb over time, and we spoke about that. So when we talk about what Presence Manifest is, it's very hard to kind of explain if you haven't experienced it or gone through it, but it does kind of help with breaking, or not breaking those habits, but molding you and giving you the tools to recognize and get through. So for me, having that session with Joey just led me to want to have this conversation with both of you, because it helped, but it's very complicated to explain on how.
Well, so it's funny because you started this off with like success, and the first talk I ever gave on energetic template clearing, which is at the basis of Presence Manifest work, was at a business conference for success. And I got up in front of a bunch of, entrepreneurs and business people, and I said, I'm here to talk about energy, and I'm here to talk about breaking through your success and how we have to kill your success to have a new success. And everybody was like, no. So it's funny because the first people I even brought this to, it was based on success and not crisis or trauma or, breaking a negative pattern. They were all doing really well, and they were there to get new skills to do better. And so I like that you started with like even successful people have, everybody has habitual tendencies. It doesn't matter if it's a bad habit or a good habit, our mind is habitual. So whenever we want to change a habit, most people attack it with will. I'm going to just force myself to create a new physical habit. And my work is really just about giving the energetic background to that, because it's really hard to change your physical habit when your subconscious is running the storyline that created the original habit. And so I often will say to people, it's if you want more success at anything, you have to end your experience of success to date energetically so that you can have a new experience of success. And you have to be willing to like redefine success. Like when you were saying earlier, like, what does success mean? Success means whatever you define it as every day, and it's going to change every day, right? And so Presence Manifest does seek to give a level of success to showing up in life presently, right? Like it does give a tool that you can use to break the habitual story behind the physical habits. And then you have greater possibility of breaking the physical habits and the day-to-day habits, because you're not fighting against yourself. Your subconscious and your conscious start playing together more nicely. Does that make sense?
I guess you're not forcing, right? It's not a force if you're not forcing the will. Because I liked when you said that earlier, that we're so used to. I think that we go into like, this is a battle. This is something we gotta fight, and we gotta force ourselves to do this. And it's true, we do go in there looking for success with that energy behind it, and we usually come across failure, to force the will to do this particular thing, whatever that is. Stop smoking, be more consistent in a thing, have a morning ritual, whatever it is. Because again, like when you said that it doesn't have to be something negative as well. It doesn't have to
Right.
be.
And let's preface this. We didn't really say this in the beginning, but how we're all connected is that within a week or two time, both of you experienced energetic template clearing from me for different reasons. And so you both have different experiences as to how that shifted what you were feeling before versus what you're feeling now. And I'm happy to explain the mechanics and such behind that, but that is how that's how we're all here in this conversation, is that during conversation with each of you separately, I decided to share some of this work with you and apply it. And I'm happy to hear how that how that transferred from your voices. Because on my end, what it really looks like is just energetically cleaning clutter out of your programming, and allowing you to sort of act more freely in alignment with your consciousness. So
Yeah, from my experience, it was I think I spoke to you shortly after brain spotting. I think that it was in addition to, and you help with remnants and other blockages that I was having, because I felt like this exhilarating feeling. Remember, I was telling you I felt on.
fuzzy.
I felt buzzy. I felt tingly. I felt, extremely happy. And like I was able to complete the tasks that I had set up for myself, as
Mm,
opposed to allowing what I was going through, that particular mindset. Like, why is this going on? What do I need to do here? The different directions that your mind goes through as a distraction. I didn't
mhm.
feel that after that. I didn't feel it. When I came to you with issues.
And it's funny because we don't really discuss the issues. That's the other thing with presence manifest work. It's not about the issues, right? It's like it's just about your mind and your body and your past and your present not meeting up and getting in the way. And so like once we align that, then we can talk about whatever, but it doesn't matter what the issue actually is. It just matters that it's there, that you have some sort of past energetic conflict with what you're trying to do right now. And so it could be anything. It could be not getting your work done, or it could be, being depressed, or it could be wanting to make 10 more $1,000 at at your job, or like it could be any of those things, but the process is still the same of cleaning out the old energy and inviting in possibility, which is really the basis of it all. Is clean out energy, bring in possibility.
And it almost sounds crazy, right, when you say that, but it makes a lot of sense if you really think about it, because going through it, I almost didn't completely understand. And you even said, I have an eye here, clearly, but you even said like, you don't need, even if it doesn't make sense to you right now, it's okay.
Right.
Just say these affirmations, or try to do this, try to do that. And it kind of takes a minute, or at least for me, it took a minute for everything to kind of align, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
But it does help with like certain feelings and emotions that, I mean, for me, I'm like super emotional. So it makes it a little more easier to manage, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Because you're managing with really just one moment at a time. And one moment at a time, 1 hour at a time is manageable, as opposed to like 20 years worth of accumulated stuff and then putting one more day on top of that. Then it feels unmanageable because you're trying to manage 20 years of experiential residue in one day, typically. So I would say, yeah, it does help make emotions manageable, because it brings it down to just the couple that should be there in that moment, and not all of them carrying around all of them all the time, which can feel pretty heavy.
Yep, I agree. Because when it came from my end, it came with the tasks. It was the tasks were more manageable. It didn't feel like an overwhelm. Like I put on a lot of stuff on me to get this project done, and it
Mm-hmm.
felt more manageable. Like, I just had to be present with what needed to be done now and not
Mm-hmm.
think of everything as a whole. So it did help with that area as far as that went.
Right. And it's funny because it's not like you have to make yourself not think. That's the difference between going through the back door energetically. It's like the other way. It's like, I must not think about this. And you're trying to will your thoughts to not think about how unmanageable it is, and think about how manageable it is. But when you clean the energetics behind it, you're just not thinking about that. You're just really thinking about what's in front of you. And it's not kind of battling with your moment. Right.
It didn't, yeah, it didn't feel like a struggle. It didn't feel like a struggle. It just felt like this is the first step you need to do that. In my experience, that's what it felt like. I had all these tasks to do, and I'm like, oh my gosh, and the time span that I have to do them, that's a lot of stuff. Because I could say that I got a lot of stuff to do. I got a lot of stuff to do. And what
Mhm.
it turned into was that this is what you need to do right now, and then you can do this. That's what it
Mhm.
turned to, effortlessly. It didn't feel like I was forcing my will to be like, don't think about this. No, this is what I thought about. This is a task that I put on my list. but is this the one that I have to do right now? No, this is not the one that I need to do right now. So it just shifted over, and what I was present with was what I needed to do, like this moment, this hour, instead of thinking about it. Like
Right.
what did I do to myself? It didn't come out like that.
Right, because your tasks are laden with all these emotional stories up until that point, up until you like actually clean the energetic slate. You have like the pressure of failing or succeeding. You have the why did I do this to myself? You have the beating yourself up for putting too much on your plate. You have, other days when you got it done quicker that you're judging yourself against. I mean, there's all these things running in the back of our head all the time that are actually energy based. And so if you incorporate an energy clearing practice, you can sort of just dissipate that and just get into what's actually in front of you. Right. But how long did that take? That was like, we're talking, and it's like, all right, well, let's dip into this thing. And what, it was like 10 minutes or something like that, or not even like 5 minutes.
Yeah, I don't think that it takes a long time.
Yeah.
And it shows. I mean, we had this conversation in the green room, in behind the scenes, about the beauty of how the brain works, right? Because at that time also I was sharing with you brain spotting, and that it's almost the same thing, because we work with that same part of the brain, that we get right into the subcortical, right there, boom, and we're hitting the spots where the traumas are frames, and that's where they get trapped with the same narrative, with those invasive and habitual thoughts. And they don't necessarily have to be negative, and it's not something that took a long time, not if you're open. Because if we both of us had an experience with you, and when we talk, to me, I felt like I was pretty open. So when you and I spoke, it was easier for me to navigate and be present, because I felt open. With my daughter, it took a little while. It took her a while to get it, and before it kicked in. But it wasn't something that, even in her not knowing, that it wasn't working, if that
And
makes
that's
sense.
that's
Right?
the best.
Yeah.
That's the best way to go into it, because if you have no, if you have no expectations, and even if you have like for me, it's almost like my favorite if someone's like, yeah, whatever, I'm not going to change my mindset in 3 days, or I've been doing this for how long, and that's not gonna, you know what I mean? It's like the more the more that happens, I'm like, okay, well, like, it's not even like, for me, it's not like an ego thing, like a challenge, like, but to me, it's just validation that it affects things, because this is not someone who's going into it like, oh, I saw this thing, this is the thing that's going to save me from X, Y, and Z, and they're having a preconceived, yes, this is going to help. When somebody's in a stressful situation, and I'm like, you want to try this, like, see what works. And then the same consistent responses from the people who go into it from the other end. To me, it's just sort of a nice, like, yeah, energy is a thing,
Like,
people.
yeah,
Like, it's
it confirms it. It's like, you're onto something, sister. You
yeah, it's
got
like energy
something
is
here.
a thing. and it does affect you in real time. If you change your energetics, it's going to change how you approach things. It's going to change how you make decisions. It's going to change how you feel or don't feel. A lot more times it's going to change into not feeling about things, because it's going to put you in a state of neutrality where you don't have a preconceived feeling that's going to just habitually take over, right? But like the first 2 or 3 days, um lil you lil you, that's adorable. But right, it was like, it wasn't necessarily a feeling of like, oh, I felt you know not happy, and then I feel happy. Like, that's not actually what happens. It's like you have a bunch of stories that create a feeling, and when those stories are gone, it's almost like, well, I don't know what I feel, you know.
Yeah, for me, it was really like a weird experience, because I kind of felt like initial feeling, my brain was so tingly. And then after that, I was just kind of confused. And I thought it was anxiety, but it wasn't like anxiety. It was like not knowing, I guess, of just kind of everything. Like, I don't know. What do I want to wear today? I don't know. What am I going to fold on my clothes? Let's see. Just like kind of like that curiosity kind of thing. And coming from being like feeling so low and kind of beating myself up a lot more before as opposed to after, not saying it just completely changed my whole personality, but it was more like lighter, like a lighter feeling, like literally how they say weight lifted off your shoulders kind of thing. And I just feel it's so important people know about it, even though it might sound like weird or you might not understand, because it does help a lot and it can change a lot. Like it's a type of healing that I didn't even know was important or essential until I started talking to you.
And it's been 1 week. I was thinking that like we actually did this on Monday. And so it's Tuesday now. So this is one week and about 1 hour of energy clearing. And then allowing that energetic clearing that we did last Monday to sort of unfold and integrate and, kind of process through. But that was 1 hour of dropping these things that I call energetic templates, which are really just past experiences that live in your energy system. And they affect the way you decide things, and they're connected to your habits. And the opposite of habitual is curiosity and wonder. Because when you don't have the habitual, you kind of are forced to decide in the moment what you want to do. And so that takes questioning, that takes curiosity, that takes wonder. And so part of presence manifest work is putting the wonder and the possibility back in life versus the I know, because if you know everything, nothing's changing. I know, nothing's going to change, So, it's like,
Absolutely. Yes, I know. No, be curious and wonder about that.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So that's like the premise of the work is to infuse wonder back into your thinking and possibility. And how we do that is just by taking out the habitual programming. So you're kind of like a computer. You're you still. You're not a different person. You're just you, sort of like what you're with your, if you were a computer, it would be like cleaning your computer and still keeping all the basic apps, right? But
Like upgrading,
like,
like
yeah, it's like
fixing
you get like
only
a new
yourself.
operating system, and you just
Or
start
some new
running more
parts.
efficiently
Right. Some new
and more
parts that
clearly,
Yeah,
you can upgrade.
that's a really good analogy, actually.
you know. And that's
Yeah.
exactly what our mind is. It's the computer. It's the computer that creates our experiences that we're creating now and for the future. But if it's running on old programs, it's just going to create more of the same. It's not going to get any new software. It's not going to get any new templates. It's not going to get any new pictures. It's just going to keep using
It's
the
like
same.
getting the same, you get the same miles, you get the same abundance, you get the
Yeah,
same
even the good stuff.
manifesting, you get the same, you don't break that threshold, that infinite space where it could be all things and anything, right? Because of the curiosity and the wonder. What could it be? Where could you go? What could
Right.
you have? What could you manifest? What could you
And
stop? Go ahead.
yeah, and what do I feel? That's the other thing. What do I feel? Because your brain it has these stories that have these correlations to it. I see this, so I feel that when I see this. And it happens so quickly that you don't even have a chance to question that, and then you just start believing that that's how you feel. I see this, I feel that. This happens, and then I feel this.
Wow, just
And
that you said that, Joey, because even like with brain spotting, the Dr. Grand motto is, where you look is where you feel. Because we always talk
yeah,
about how the body keeps the score, but where you look is how you feel. And that's where you find your spots. And with you,
right.
you're saying this is where we go in and dig a little deeper and break into those frames. So that way, that's not a habitual thing. You're able to
Yes.
say a different narrative, so to speak.
And
Yeah.
everything doesn't feel so heavy. So you create like this middle ground of like you can be okay instead of being super elated or super down.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you have these super elated or super down moments, which I don't know if you've had any this particular week, but they feel more real because you're like, oh, this really makes me happy. Or this really makes me sad. Whereas before, when you're going through these cumulative up and down, everything makes you so happy or everything makes you so sad. And all those little nuances get lost in between. But when you have those moments, it's like, oh, like, no, this really makes me happy. Right.
Yeah.
But then at the end of the day, you have to let that go. Right. That really made me happy on Tuesday. So I'm not going to expect this to make me happy on Wednesday and Thursday. But I'll be curious. Let me make another appointment with said person or said thing and see if it still makes me happy. You know?
Yeah.
It's like almost like always having that consent, but with yourself, that check in all the time, because it's
Yeah.
not the same ever.
Yeah. And it's really not the same ever. I mean, some things are similar day to day, but honestly, we change and grow and learn so much every day that really by the next day, we should be making some decisions a little bit differently than we did the day before. And the goal shouldn't be to keep making the same decision over and over and over and over again.
I mean,
Because,
but it does bring
you
some kind
know,
of security for some people, doing the same thing, having a routine, right?
mhm,
Having a routine, having a ritual, because now we can get into that space if you're talking about something over and over and over again. Some
mhm.
of us get caught in that. Like we said, it doesn't have to be anything bad, but we
No.
get caught up in a routine. I wake up in the morning, I do this, I do that. And it's you used the word one time when we were talking, the disruption
Mhm.
is to
Yeah.
cause a disruption in that, so that way it leaves space for something else to bring you to present.
Yeah, I like ritual and habit. So here's the thing. Habit is not bad, right? Our mind is habitual. What ends up happening energetically in the background is even when you have a good habit, it gets diluted, right? So the first day you have that green shake, you're like, whoa, I feel so great about this green shake. I had this green shake. And then by week 3, you're having the green shake, but you're not even tasting it or you're not even remember drinking it. You just got up, made it, drank the shake, went to the gym, and you didn't even taste the shake. So at that point, your habit is still a good habit, but you're feeling it less. You're getting further and further and further away from a present experience of that habit. You can have as many habits and rituals as you want, but it would be my desire that people had habits and rituals that they felt intimate and close up with and could feel every day what that habit is doing for them and their mental state and their body. But when you just start doing it out of routine with less and less feeling, that's when you're out of presence. So you can clean your habits, right? And have a new experience of your habitual action every day. You can still have a habitual action, but it would be my desire that you would have a new experience of that action every day, right? Like with your baby, it's like you want to wake up and have a new experience of your baby each day, and they make it easy because they grow and change so fast, right? So it's like they do the work for you of keeping it present because they're changing so fast. You have to keep up to what they're changing, right? But with
Yeah.
our own selves, at some point, we're not changing so fast every
No, it's
every
slow.
day.
It
Our
takes
hair doesn't
time.
look drastically different, or our face doesn't look drastically different from one day to the
It
other. So
slowly creeps up on us.
it's, it's hard to stay present with ourselves like we would stay present with children. And children are just naturally present because everything's new to them. They don't have a lot of habitual stuff. And you can start seeing it with the kids too. They'll start having habitual stuff too pretty early on. If they do the same thing all the time, it'll start getting diluted. It's not as exciting for them. They don't want to engage in it. But if they ended their own experience of that thing that they're doing, they probably would find something interesting and new and curious in that same thing in the next moment, because it would like bring that moment closer to their heart, you know? Like old experiences basically like just keep covering our heart. And then when we clean them, it's like our heart can feel our life. Right? And then we can trust our feelings.
Yeah, it's like when they say the more you remember a memory, the less you actually remember it. Like the more times you talk about a memory, the more times you talk about, the less likely you are to actually say what happened exactly, because it's like your brain just kind of goes on autopilot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then you'll just start inserting things that make sense to your brain. That didn't actually happen. And then you'll fabricate the story that matches the feeling that you're having habitually so that you believe it.
Yep, here come the embellishments.
Yeah. Energy is behind everything that we perceive. And so if you do not have an energetic hygiene practice, then it's going to get gunky.
And you're going to stay stuck in that gunk a little bit longer too, because it's like with any other practice. The more you practice, the stronger you get at it, the better you get. You can't get any worse if you practice. You could just get better than where you were when you first started.
Yes.
In either direction, good or bad. You can't get any worse. You can't, you know what I mean? Like you increase whatever that thing that it is that you practice.
Yes. And so I take the habitual. So, okay. So I don't, here's the real of it. Okay. People would call me lazy. I call myself efficient. Right. I don't like doing extra work. I just never have. I'm from New York. I want it to be done quickly. I want it to be done efficiently, and I want it to be done cost effectively. And so this product or this particular practice that I've come up with is because it is the quickest. It is the quickest in to changing old and increasing possibility that I've come across. And I kept fighting with my habitual mind, right? I kept knowing my mind was habitual and trying to figure out how to like wrangle those habits like these little maniac little wild horses, like, oh, I have to wrangle you. And finally the light bulb went off one morning and I thought, okay, my mind is habitual. I'm going to create an affirmation and a prayer and this direction for my mind to give it one prioritized habit. And that is to habitually destroy everything that I've created at the end of every day. Like, I'm going to take my habitual mind and I'm going to give it the direction to habitually let go. So all I had to do was train my mind to habitually let go of the old. And now my mind just runs itself clean. It just cleans its computer daily and
Yeah,
upgrades
you
itself.
have it on an automation right now.
Like,
You
yeah,
have
like
it on a
I'm like,
self-cleaning autopilot.
exactly. So
And before the
present,
end of the day, you
yeah,
destroy
that's what it
everything
is.
that I created today and throughout the day, and any remnants that might be sticking around from yesterday. You clear all of this stuff out. You have my permission, and
Mm-hmm.
that is that at the end of every day. Thank you
Right.
very
So
much.
I took my habitual mind and I used its habitualness not against itself, but for itself. Because if I have a computer that self-cleans,
You just put in a program. You
and
put in a habitual
self-updates,
program.
right? If it integrates everything it learns every day, it's like AI, right? So it's like it integrates everything it learns every day, and it lets go of like all the open files that got open that day, and it tidies everything up, and then it allows me to walk into the next day with a brain that is primed for creating stuff and primed for asking questions and primed for feeling curious. And so I basically just learned how to like hack my brain using energy backdoor to stay present. You know, I gave it a habit of presence, and that's what presence manifest actually means. I gave it a habit of presence so that from presence, everything else in my life manifests. All I have to be concerned about is keeping my mind present. And then from there, everything else happens. I'll question things. I'll know how I feel. I'll trust myself. I'll, call in opportunities. Everything happens from a present state. And so the only thing we really need to do is teach our minds to be present, or train them, basically. Clean them and train them to stay present. And then,
which would be the daily affirmation, that one daily affirmation, right?
Mhm. Yeah. So the daily affirmations that I give in the beginning, in the first week that I work with people, I give one for creating sacred space, which is really just creating a present space. And that's just aligning your energy system with everything that's supportive to it, sort of blocking anything that's not supportive to it, connecting to your highest vibration possible, and inviting the mystery in, right? And that creates the container for my day. So I create sort of a present container that I'm walking into. The affirmation that I gave you is a daily affirmation and what I call a holistic affirmation. It doesn't seek to change one thing. It just seeks to touch on all the areas of your life that you want positive possibility in, and open up each of those areas and call in those energies, like to call in nurturing, to call in compassion. And have you found, though, that this week that stuff shows up for you?
I find that if like I have mostly less, it stems from like, I guess, the anxiety that I've felt prior to it. That's the biggest change that I've noticed so far, is for whatever reason, it's not as intense. Like I'm talking, it would come down to moments of like, I can feel my heart beating and I'm just panicking. Where now it's just like the emotions that I felt that were so negative all the time, or the thoughts that I had about myself that were so negative all the time, have kind of just slowed, or they'll come through and then I'll be like, let me try the affirmation, or let me, it doesn't take as much effort to like bring it back down to like, okay, it's not that bad, or okay, it's not like, that's what I've noticed so far in this past week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So your mindset is shifting to more not so reactive. Like
Right.
It's like I noticed this negative thought. So what am I going to do about it?
Right.
Instead of just being, it comes in and then defines your emotion and then sets you into
the downward spiral kind of thing.
Just into the reaction, right? So, and that's what happens in the beginning. And then what'll end up happening in the next like couple of weeks is, as you clear up, so what you're living in all the time is the manifestation of what you were thinking several weeks or several months ago. Because when we think things, they turn into physical reality, but physical reality is slower than energy. So we think things and we make decisions, and then our life forms around us, right? But it moves a little bit slower than our mindset. So it took you, say, 2 or 3 months of maybe a negative spin mindset to create the circumstances that you're in. And now you'll have a different mindset, making different decisions, calling in different people, following different opportunities. And in about, say, 3 weeks time, maybe a month, you'll be able to look backwards and be like, okay, this changed. So first, it's the mindset that changes. And then that mindset affects what you bring into your life. And so then your external life starts changing. You'll have new friends show up. You'll have old friends dip out. You'll have a different experience of people that you've seen every day for months and months. But this week you notice that they do this. or this week they started talking to you differently, right? Because your habits or habitual mindset doesn't feed their habitual mindset. So presence manifest also breaks codependent tethers, because people will get codependent on people's habitual reactions. So when you stop being less habitual, you don't feed the little cues to everybody else who habitually reacts to those cues. You break their patterns too by being more present. And so that's something that you might start noticing, or have already started noticing. I don't know if people react to you different, or you're having different kind of conversations with them.
I haven't really been around too many people, so like that I've normally hung out with. So that I can't speak on just yet, but
yeah. And parenting, you're around her every day.
Yeah, for the most part. I am more in tune with my child, my inner child. So it seems, than I was, because it was like I was so caught up in like the stress of life that I just didn't engage with like the singing, dancing, coloring, creative me. Oh my goodness. But now it's kind of, I'm more so like, I don't know, I just want to like kiss her toes or something. Like I'm just more like, I guess like impulsive in a good way though. Like if that makes sense too.
Yeah. I mean, technically on an energetic level, you're closer to her. There's less stuff between you guys. So you can kind of be more on the level, heart to heart. There's not as much stories. There's not much routine. And there's not as much like, okay, this happens, then this happens, then this happens. Because like there's what happens if I kiss her toes? You know? What does she do? You know?
Yeah, one of the things.
Take a bath.
One of the things
I'll take a bath, Rita.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, but one of the things that I wanted to talk about was how in the library, Anaya had a mental, like a temper tantrum, like a bad, like one of the worst possible times, just screaming at the top of her lungs in the middle of the library. And usually that drives me up a wall. Like I will just be like, Anaya, what are you doing? But I was like, huh. And it happened like so fast too. But in my head, it was kind of like, I should probably just like remove her from the situation and talk to her, and then she'll probably calm down. And it just kind of worked out really well. Whereas instead of being so reactive, like, why are you screaming? Like it's like little stuff like that. And she almost knocked this off. But it's like, I guess it's like a slow process to see, like you said, like you start noticing little things here and there that you did differently that you're like, huh, well, now that happened. Okay.
Exactly. So
like
it's weird, isn't it?
It's pretty weird. Yeah, it's pretty weird, but it's like nice. Feels nice. Like it feels better than just being so caught up in for me, just negativity.
Why you have that ring on?
I find that
Why you have that ring on middle finger.
Rings are just pretty.
You like that ring?
Yeah, and
It's like
and
it's my grandmother's ring. It's an antique ring, and it makes me feel like a princess when I wear it.
mommy has also a ring too. So you
Yeah.
Okay, well, this is Anaya, and she wants to be part of the podcast too.
Hi. Are you having a good week? Are you having a good
like
day?
my mommy. And actually, mommy never gave you. He was puppy. Sorry.
Mom, for your
And me.
presence manifesting, you should talk about a little more like how does it feel? Like how long ago did you do it?
It was like a day or so before you.
That's
Right?
what I was gonna say. That's what I thought. I thought it was 2 days before her.
Yeah.
Right? I thought it was 2 days before her.
Yeah, like a day or two. Because that's what led to the conversation of me calling in the first place. Because I was like,
Right.
oh, maybe I could just call call her too and see what's going on.
Yeah. No, I mean, with me the difference, like I told you, it feels like it felt, and I say it feels because sometimes I check in with myself and I'm like, am I still processing? Because now I know what the brain does. Now I know that the body knows how to take care of itself if you allow it the space to do so. So with me, it feels like expansion because I don't feel certain blockages anymore because of the abundance of things I put on myself. And I can be present with each individual task. Like, don't worry about this whole thing. Just worry about this one right here because it'll move you a step closer. It feels like I can get more done.
That's a good point that you brought up. Little you. I like the little you. Little you. I just like it because I'm like 5 feet tall. So for me to call anyone little is like, I don't know, it seems fun to me. But it's a good thing that you brought that up because when we clear things energetically, when I say clear, I mean destroy. I mean we dissipate things. We take these energetic forms and we disintegrate them, right? And so whatever you have cleared does not come back. Like it's true energetic transformation or like alchemy. You're taking something that was there and was in the way and you're making it so that it's not there anymore. You're not taking it and just filing it in a different place. You're not taking it and moving it temporarily where it could just kind of slide back down over your eyes and your heart. You're taking these filters, I call them energetic templates, but you're taking these templates and you're actually just tossing them. So doing it this way, even if you were to create a similar challenge for yourself, it still would never be the same challenge like ever again, because the same thing that you've already let go of is gone. It's out of your energetic space. And so it's taking up no room and it's allowing for more stuff to happen in that space. So it is an expansion because you're more free to kind of move around in your own energy without triggers. It destroys triggers, basically. It destroys energetic triggers, and that's the bad ones and also the good ones. Like to me, I call nostalgia the happy trigger. Everyone's like, I want to get rid of my triggers, and they're all these bad things. And I'm like, ice cream is a trigger. Like even grandma hugs, that's a trigger, right? If you hug your grandma and that gives you comfort, right? You could be somewhere else and you could think of grandma hug, right? And bring you comfort, right? But you could think of grandma hug and bring you comfort and avoid the challenge that's sitting in front of you. You can use any of these things as dilution for not really feeling what's in front of you. So all of the practices are designed to just bring you closer to what's in front of you or to what you're feeling.
If you let it go, because at any
Just let it
time
go.
you can use any of these things as a blocker, right?
Yeah,
So it's like
right,
when it comes, you just let it go, release that thing, and it
right.
no longer becomes a blocker.
Right. And it just no longer it's like an influencer, right? It's just like no longer influencing. You don't forget it. You don't forget who your grandma is.
No, it no longer gives you a rise. Like
But
it's
you're
like
not
you
going to
had
be
no
able to
emotion.
just call in the idea of grandma to like make yourself feel better when you should be feeling shitty. Like you're in a bad situation.
Like that
You
is what you need to be present to and
You need to
experience
be
that.
present to the bad situation so you can make decisions to change the situation. If you allow yourself a bunch of nostalgia that you can escape into and it can bring you feelings that don't even really exist right now, you can just really bypass a lot of your reality. And then what's happening is you're just creating more of that. You're telling your world it's okay if I have crappy experiences
And
because I can
also
just,
to a certain extent, that's a fantasy.
you know,
Just staying in a dream-like state and not making it a reality because you're just getting stuck there.
yeah, if you
You
could take
know,
the one happy day you've had in 10 years and just call it up and make yourself feel good whenever you want, then you're not going to, and you're not even doing it, you're not doing that consciously. Like our minds do this subconsciously behind the scenes. But you're not going to make the decisions that you need to actually change your circumstance to something that what's in front of you is going to bring you happiness. If what's in front of you is not bringing you happiness and you have to go into your head all the time looking for happy thoughts to make you feel happy, then those happy thoughts are crutches, just like a wound or an abusive situation becomes a crutch. Anything that's in the
it
way,
becomes your norm.
yeah, anything that's in the way of presence is pretty
which
much.
is how it breaks the codependency too, because it would be like, instead of seeing how bad this person treats you or how bad this person makes you feel, usually when you're codependent or you're in an abusive cycle, you just, oh, but it's okay because that one day
Mhm.
they did this, or it's okay because at least when that happens, it makes me really happy. And then you can't really, like, you choose not to see what's right in front of you. So
Right. And that's exactly how it works, is because we tend to hold on to the worst and the best moment of anyone or anything and make our decisions between those two moments. And especially in toxic relationships or codependent relationships, we will hang on to that 3 good weeks that we had with someone. And it could be 2 years later, and we're just trying to repeat whatever that 10 things that we may have done that got those 3 weeks to happen. But those 3 weeks are gone, right? And you've already had 12 months of shit. Sorry. But just you've had 12 months of like horrible relating, and you're hanging on because you're just trying to do everything you can to repeat this really great experience you already had. And you're never going, and you've already grown. You've already been abused, talked to badly, had your heart broken. You're never going to feel those 3 weeks the way you felt those first 3 weeks anyway, because you've already become a different person. So it's impossible for us to go back to the past and recreate stuff. So if you take if you end your experience of that, or you use the tools from Presence Manifest to end your experience of this person that's standing in front of you, you just start seeing who's standing in front of you, and you start feeling closely who's standing in front of you. So when they say hurtful things, yeah, it's going to hurt more because it's up close. They're going to say things and you're going to feel them, right? And you've worked really, not you personally, but subconsciously, our subconscious works to dilute that and be like, oh, that hurts. Let me remember these other like 10 days where it didn't hurt. So that's going to make it hurt less. Or if somebody's in a very abusive, because codependency works like that, where it's not always just horrible, right? If people tend to get really bad and then they hit their extreme and they get real sorry and then they start being real nice to you because they were really bad, right? Your brain also tells you, oh, that's okay because the nice part is coming. I can sit through this Because the nice part is what happens after this, right? After I yell,
It's a
after
habit of that.
yeah, the habit of that. So it's like when you start practicing presence on a daily basis, you're so not tethered to these habitual tendencies that it's really easy for you to be like, I am sitting in a pile of shit. And it feels horrible. And what can I do to change it? And so it's like it really does call you to make real decisions to change things, or to put clearer boundaries. And then those people will kind of go through their own, and there's whole people and there's counselors that deal with codependent relationships and everything, but they'll go through the typical responses. They'll try everything they used to do to get you to react the same way. They'll escalate things because it's not working. They can't control you, and then eventually they'll take themselves out of your own situation. They'll remove themselves because they're not getting they're not getting their fix from whatever that cycle was giving, because you've broken that cycle, right? But
It's
you're
almost like
correct.
breaking that addiction part of you, whatever that thing is, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Because a habit done long enough, it's an addiction. It's like biting your nails, like pacing back and forth. What? It could be anything.
Right.
Could be
Even
anything.
making lots of money. You can get addicted to. That's why with the success talk, I told them, like, if you're making $5,000 a month and that's how you hit that dopamine, and you're just going to continually chase those 10,000 to hit the next to get that, but they're chasing the same. It's just like with the relationship. How we said, okay, we had those 3 great weeks, right? The first time someone makes a lot of money, they have this like high. That's their first time. It could be when they were 4 years old and they sold a baseball card for $5, right? And that is the same feeling that they will chase over and over for the rest of their life to try to recreate. And so they'll just make new, bigger scenarios to feel like, ooh, I got something at a lower price and I sold it for a bigger one, right? And they'll just keep going and going and going, but they're actually never having a new good experience. They're having the same good experience only when they hit a certain goal. So they have to wait 3 months to get to that experience again, when they could just end their experience of it and feel like that about so many more things in their life. They could feel like that when when their child brings them a painting, or they can feel like that when the sun goes down and it's pretty. But they've defined it in their head. The brain said, this is when you are happy. And it'll just keep trying to recreate something to make you feel that way again. So, and you don't have to will it. You just have to let it go. Like, I'm done with being happy the way that I've been happy up until today, because I want to see what happy feels like tomorrow.
Exactly.
Right.
So, but yeah, that was a perfect point, because that's exactly why it breaks codependent patterns.
Yeah, I've just noticed that, like, this past week, just certain things that used to make me feel a certain way just don't make me feel that way anymore. And I'm just like, why am I doing this? Because this doesn't feel good. Like, I need to not do that. Or like just, but it's not one specific thing. It's just a bunch of different things that I'm just like, weird.
Well, yeah, because you're feeling your life. It's almost like you wake up in your life and you start going, how does this feel? How does this feel? How does this feel? How does this feel? Because there was so much like glamour around it before, good and bad, good glamour and bad glamour. But it was like being in a Disney movie where somebody had just sort of wrapped it in either sparkles or had wrapped it in shit, right? And now you're just seeing the things underneath the sparkles and underneath the shit. And you're like, oh, what do I keep? What do I not keep? What do I like? What I don't like? And you're not being fooled by the story. Your mind will make stories and just apply it to the things around you if you don't keep your mind habitually letting go. the old stories, really. You know, so you can have lots of rituals. You can have a routine. You can go to the gym every morning at 6. Like, I don't think presence gets in the way of ritual and practice. I just think that it enhances how we experience it and how we perceive those rituals and practice, so that we can end those rituals if they're not working for us anymore.
Yeah.
And we can get new ones that do work for us. You know, you can change a church, you know, like say you're going to the same church, and then, you know, you don't have to always go to the same church. You know, after a couple of years, you can see that your church is just not supporting you and being the community that you wanted them to be. And you can go find
Everything and anything for your highest good.
Yeah.
your what?
Be present. I said, be present with everything, you know, for whatever it is for your highest good, because you're going to change what is no longer serving you. And you're going to release it with love and light. You know, it doesn't have to be a nasty release.
Yeah.
You know?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
See you, you know? Absolutely.
I really enjoyed those 3 great weeks, and I'm really happy not to do those other 12 months again with you.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I don't have to go and process this with anyone for 38 hours.
Right. No, you're right. This is a
Like,
good
I'm just going to be
conversation.
like, no, you can go home now.
Yeah, no, that is, I mean, this is a good conversation. It really is, because we do have these thoughts that are invasive to us, whether they're negative or not, you know, and we constantly need to look at that to be present. So that way we can keep getting better and better by the minute, by the second, right? That's presently get better and better and better.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
No, go ahead, you.
No, and I'm just saying, just to release it to serve your highest good, whatever that is.
Yeah, so the words in presence manifest, like if you were to say, so when I do it in my head, it's like an energetic, and it's just like, it's like just moving things around, right? It's like a different language. But in words, it is, I end my experience of whatever it is to date, right? And then in alignment with my highest self and the divine, right? So so not only am I going to end it, because of course, again, I'm not lazy, I'm efficient, but I want to wrap everything up neatly all the time. So it's like, okay, I don't want to just end things. I want to end them that's in the best way for me, right? So I want that, if it's going to take, like for you, when I did energy work for you, little you, it was like, it's in the prayer, it's in the intention that you're giving your mind to create. We're going to end it in the most benevolent way for you. Meaning, if it's going to take you 4 days to process it, that's how long it's going to take. Because you don't want to go into, like, you know, releasing something sometimes in like 3 minutes, you know, because your body, the best way for you is to release it over the course of 4 days. But we don't know what the best way is. I don't know what the best way is, but your highest self and the divine knows what the best way is. So when I wrap everything that I do in alignment with the highest self and the divine, I know that however it unfolds is going to be the best way for you, right? I'm not saying that I know what the best way for you is. I just
No,
know
you
that
trust and believe.
when I ask for something to be dissipated, I'm going to have it dissipated. So that's going to happen in that moment. We're going to take this form and we're going to destroy it. And then we're going to allow that to basically integrate in the best way possible for you. And then we're going to invite possibility. In terms of the energy, the energy thing. So, but yeah, so when you get a thought, you can just drop into it. Whatever thing comes up into your brain is really just something else we can end. So if it's a negative thought, when you see it and go, oh, I shouldn't be thinking that. That's what you're kind of doing when you go back and set sacred space or do the affirmation. You're basically creating that ending for it and then giving yourself more space in your energy system. But if you start thinking all the time, obsessing over like wanting something, you end your experience of that too. and then see how it feels. Oh, I don't hear you.
I didn't realize I was muted, but I was saying like, hold on, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Hey. This is life, you know.
It's
Yes,
up
it
close
is.
and personal.
Mm-hmm.
Single mom life. No, but wow, I just lost my train of thought. Never mind. It was what you were talking about something, and I completely forgot what I was going to say.
Oh, it's okay. I think we were just talking about like aligning with your highest self and the divine. So
And that you
it's
trust and believe that it will happen as you call it to be.
yeah,
There's nothing that you have to
right.
second guess that. If you're saying we're gonna end this now, this is what it is.
Yeah, so
Yeah, when
I
you
was
say I
gonna
end
now.
the experience of it happens.
So you're saying
What'd you say?
like when you tell yourself something and you truly believe it, that's when you have the capability to end your experience of anxiety or end your experience of sadness
To
or
manifest
whatever
it.
you're processing in that moment, to give yourself a clearer mind, clearer headspace to tackle whatever it is. Essentially.
Well, yes and no, because remember, like back to the codependent conversation. What you're really doing is you're cleaning up what's in front of you. So if you're experiencing anxiety and you end your experience of anxiety to date, what you're doing is you're taking any past anxiety that's attached to this moment and you're getting rid of that. So now, if you have anxiety still in this moment, it's something actually in your environment and you can confront it, right? It won't necessarily, if there's still something to be anxious about, right? Like a good example is when you walk into a store, right? There's all these items and you don't know which item could be triggering you. And there's all these people, you don't know which person could be triggering you, right? But you walk into this store and all of a sudden you have this anxiety, right? Well, psychologically speaking, people would have you go down some sort of long awareness track. Is it the candles? Does that remind me of, is it the person with the beard? It's like you're never going to go through the entire store worth of information that's being thrown at you and find where that anxiety is coming from, right? But if you walk into the store and you have anxiety and it doesn't logically match, like why would I be having anxiety walking into the store? So you end your experience of the store, right? And then you end your experience of all the people in the store and you end your experience of anxiety. That kind of cleans everything that you're engaging with, right? Then you feel into yourself. Do I feel anxious? 9 out of 10 times, no, you don't. Because the reason you felt anxious was because something in the store reminded you of a different time that made you anxious. So a lot of times it'll just dissipate the anxiety, right? Sometimes it'll just bring clarity. Like you'll say, I do feel anxious, but you'll be drawn to exactly the thing and you'll have the memory. Oh, I feel anxious because this lady looks like my aunt who used to whip my ass. Right? And then you use that moment to end your experience of your aunt. Right? And you feel into it again. Do I feel anxious? Probably not. And then you go shopping. Right? But the other way would be you walk in, you don't know why you're anxious. You're never going to figure it out. And you're just going to end up picking a different store to go to and avoid that store and drive 5 miles out of your way every time because you don't want to feel that anxiety. Right?
Yeah,
So
every time I go there, I feel something. So I'm not going there no more.
I'm not going there anymore, right? And if we were to try to psychologically figure it out, how much time would that take?
It would take too
Right?
much
Because a lot of
because
times it
even
might
with
be
the
we were
with
too,
right
yeah. It's like that's
with
why you
having
have to go in the energetic back door and clean stuff and then feel
it's
instead
almost
of
like
like
going into the brain to go to try to figure out which neuron, and we have like a quadrillion of them, and figure out which one is the one that is holding on to that particular trauma from in utero. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
how would you know? You
right.
don't need to know. You don't need to know. All you have to do is get rid of it. You don't need to know.
You don't need to. That's what I'm saying. So it's like, even when you have these conversations, like, I didn't need to know how many tasks were on your plate. I didn't need to know why you were having a hard week. I don't need to know any of that, because I just know you're not where you want to be and something is in the way. So let's just clear as much stuff out of the way and then see what happens, and then tweak it as we
Yeah.
go. Oh, this
It's
is
like
still
cleaning a
happening. Let's try
road.
clearing that.
There's rocks
You
on the
know, like,
road, there's boulders on the road, there's garbage on the road, and we're clearing the road. We're clearing the path. So you have a straight run.
yeah. So we move faster, and we can get places faster. So we have more time to sit and have a picnic if we want too. You know, like, I
Absolutely.
don't know, just our brains work efficiently as manifestors, eases up a lot of space for a lot of things, for growth, for possibility, for healing, for relationships, for new friends, you know, just
That's a
basic
nice
life
way
being
to.
better, I think,
No,
you know.
absolutely. That's a
Being
nice.
your better
But
self.
yeah, you have like a lag. What did you say?
Oh, I just said being your better self.
Yeah,
Like, it just allows you to be
yeah,
your
you just
best
align
self.
yourself with your best self.
Yep, and
Yeah.
that's a
And to
nice
face
way
yourself,
to
so that
right
if
to
you
face
find an
yourself.
area that you want to grow in, yeah, so you can be like, oh, and you get the weirdest when you're in presence, you get the weirdest desires. It's like, I want to go study kung fu, you know, like when you don't have the space to think that, it doesn't come, right? But when you have the space in your head, like, just these like random things start happening, and then you're like, oh, maybe I will take an intro to kung fu class, you know. Plus I have more time on my plate because I'm not in therapy anymore about trying to figure out what happened when I was 2 that I can't remember because I wasn't even talking yet, you know. Not that therapy's bad, but I'm saying, like, there's things that it's good for, and then there's things that it really could just eat up 5 of your years trying to beat up something, when you just have an energetic template that's running your life that you can just dissipate in 30 seconds, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. This
I
is a
like
very good
efficiency.
conversation to have because a lot of people have pain in their body and don't realize that your body keeps the score. Sometimes that pain that you're carrying in your body is from trauma in utero before 2 years old, something you can't remember from first grade, but your
Mhm.
body carries it, and if you just let it
Your
go
brain
instead of
remembers
trying,
everything. It's such a
right?
beautiful thing.
Absolutely. I agree with you. I
Mhm.
fell in love with the
And your
brain
brain
all over
remembers
again.
everything. And that's the other thing I learned. The other thing I learned during this work is that the brain remembers everything. And half the reason that it's so hard to change is because your brain is afraid it's going to lose its information that it gained. If you end this relationship, your brain is afraid everything it learned about the relationship is going to be gone from its data bank. It doesn't want to let go of growth, right? So you end the energetic tethers to it and the emotional manipulation of it, and your brain gets to keep all the information, and it's happy and it's not fighting you anymore. Because you're like, yes, remember that horrible relationship, brain. Just don't make me feel it every day for the next 30 years. You know, remember it though, so I
Disconnect
could
that
recognize it.
emotional tie. Disconnect that
Yeah,
emotional.
you want your brain to remember everything. You don't want to forget things, good or bad. You want your brain to have all the information it can so it can make the most educated decision it can.
Yes,
But
you
you
just
don't
don't want
want,
to be in that heightened state that you're feeling it like it happened yesterday and it's
yeah, you don't want
20
to be
years ago.
emotionally manipulated by your own brain. You know,
Don't want to
you want to
gaslight
be,
yourself.
yeah, you don't want to gaslight yourself. Like, every time you go to do something, your brain goes, well, last time you tried to do that, all
Yep.
hell
And it's
ensued.
like
So don't do
trigger, trigger,
that,
trigger,
you
trigger,
know. But
trigger
last
here,
time,
trigger
may
there.
more. And you weren't 20, you know, like, yeah, maybe last time you hadn't taken the class and this time you have a degree. You know, it's like your brain doesn't recognize that stuff. Your brain just is like, up last time. So you better
In
not do
whatever
that.
timeline that was last time.
Last time, and it could have been when you were 2. Oh, last time you tried to take somebody's food away, they punched you in the face. So don't do that.
When you
And it's
feel
like, you got to clean
hungry,
the table.
don't do that.
Yeah, you got to clean the table. You shouldn't have anxiety cleaning the table, right?
Because it's all
You know, or
connected.
like giving people a time limit to eat or something, you know, it's like, and you don't even know how it's connected. And if you were to go through and try to find it awareness, it would take you years to make those two things go, oh, this is why I feel this. So it's
Or to hit the
better to
nail on the
just
head, or
end the
even to hit
feeling,
the nail on the
you
head, the
know?
right, because you're going to be going through these different experiences
Mhm.
trying to figure out, stop trying to hit the nail on the head with that. Just know that you can release it all. That's it. Bada
Yeah,
bing, bada
just let it
boom.
go. We're not actually meant to hold on to experiences. We're supposed to just have experiences, teach us something, and move on. It doesn't mean people have to move on, but Tuesday with that person can move on when it's Wednesday. And then we have Wednesday with that person, and Wednesday can move on when it's Thursday. You know, it's not like, we need an endless parade of people in our life, but we do need to have new days with people and not just the same 4 days, the good, the bad, the indifferent, and, the great, the same 4 days with the people for the rest of our lives. Because our soul gets bored, I think. That's my opinion. Our soul gets bored if it doesn't get new information and deeper intimacy and more possibility. And then we start trying to find ways to make drama in our life because we're bored,
To bring back that feeling that we felt before we were bored, whatever that thing was,
Right.
right? There we go. The cycle
Right. We're
begins
bored.
again. But this
Right.
is a good conversation to have. I think that we need to revisit this again because we are habitual beings. So I think this is something that should be
Mhm.
on a reminder. Um, are we gonna do this again next Tuesday, ladies? Because we can drop another topic in here if we're gonna do it again for next Tuesday and probably promote a little bit more into the other groups.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
I'm just
available
hanging
next
out.
Tuesday.
Yeah. We
All
can
right,
talk
and
about crafting affirmations too. Like why the
okay,
affirmation that I put with Presence Manifest actually works. And then people can craft their own affirmations. Um, break out of that
Uh,
habit too.
okay. How to craft your
Maybe.
own affirmation? We can address that. So I'll
Yeah.
put that down as the
Yeah.
next title. Craft your own affirmation.
And then
Affirmation and
also it would be great to feel like just to get like an update of like what look at her in the background. She's so cute. She's like like the things that you recognize this week, both of you, that where it's like because presence compounds, right? So like it's nice to have hindsight and go what changed this week and what tools worked and how long they took and stuff like that. Like that's kind of a good thing to recognize. Because eventually you don't need these things. You can just sort of bring them down to a symbol in your own mind and just do them as you walk through the day. So, like kung fu presence manifest mind training.
I like that. The mind boot camp. There you go.
Aw, I love you guys.
Presence and Mind Boot Camp.
Yeah.
I did,
And
yeah.
that's
I had something called boot camp that I made once, and it was kind of what I did before I understood this to get me to
okay.
bring in new possibility in my life. Right. So there was steps to this. There was like I tried it. I threw a lot of stuff against the wall before I figured this out.
No,
So
yeah, that's how the journey goes. To your better
yeah.
and higher self, to overcome that. Go through some stuff, see it, overcome it, and make it better, or shift in a different,
Hmm.
area. That's what we're telling everyone here too. To release it all and just
Yeah.
shift into the presence. But thank you for your time,
Yeah.
ladies.
And
I
if I don't do
appreciate
my
you.
own practice, I mess up myself.
Yeah.
If I don't do my own practice, I'll get gunky real quick.
Yeah, and that brings us back to the 360 of self-care with the conversation we had in the last podcast. What are the things that you need to do to make sure that you're good so you can continue to do the work tomorrow, today and tomorrow? We have to be
Yeah.
mindful of that as healers, as guides, as navigators, as companions. We need to really be mindful. The work that we do, is valuable. So we need to value ourselves and do the self-care that we need. Because as we know, people
Hmm.
walk around with luggage. We walk around with luggage. And it's very, very easy to throw your luggage on top of somebody else's, you know?
Hmm.
Yep, and take on other people's luggage.
Hmm.
Thank you so much,
And the
ladies.
stuff we don't know. So
That's
we're
right,
like
right,
carrying
right.
around things we don't even know.
That we don't need to know, that
All
we
right.
don't
I love
know.
you. Thank you for having me.
Bye. Hold on, let me end this broadcast.
Thank you so much for having me.